I nearly did turn up in white, but doing the whole Jesus thing. I'm trying to go for more yoga Viking, but if I start looking like I should be making coffee in Shoreditch, then I'm getting a haircut.
Yeah. This podcast is called Clueless because we are very clueless on the topics that we're delving into, especially this with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we both had a session with you,
Yes,
didn't
we
we?
did.
How did you like it?
I'm going to be really honest about this, actually. But we went into it very differently, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had very
Yeah, you
different
did.
expectations. I think we nearly
I was like, my
sorry.
session was an hour. She was up there. I was like, she's still up there. She's had 2 hours. What's she doing?
Like, are you okay up there? I came down like, I don't know what's just happened to me.
Her hair was like all over the place. Just like, oh my God.
It was an experience, I have to say. But yeah, and again, probably for you, you probably went into it with different mindsets of, you know, how both of us were going to be in it.
Well, I'm very good at being very vacant, so I go into it with no mindset at all,
Yeah.
and just make it up. And sometimes it works.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
it does, I'm like, bloody hell.
Yeah.
do
And
this, I should
sometimes
do
it doesn't,
this
in
job.
which case it's your fault. You couldn't go there. But no, yeah, it was, you guys were both very different. And it was an interesting one.
How would you describe what you do? So it's like a therapy, but
In layman's terms.
So, technically, I'm a multidisciplinary therapist.
Your credits, your list of credits.
Yeah.
insane.
Pages and pages of it. So
Yeah, I needed a lot of validating.
No, but it
That
must
was
be
the
hard
thing.
for you to say this is exactly who
So
I am.
yeah, so
actually.
no one, so there really isn't a way of saying it. So then you've got in kind of like, you then go into consciousness science. My background was clinical hypnotherapy and NLP for trauma,
Yeah.
but then I started bringing in a lot of the spiritual psychology, and then studying all that kind of things and kind of mapping the way the brain works and belief systems. And so now I don't know what to call me.
It was actually
I'm a
interesting.
weirdo.
When we first started the therapy, I thought it was a really interesting therapy. Is that what you call it? Or when,
Yeah, it was
when
session.
We,
Sessions. Yeah.
You started in a really nice way because you were very much like, okay, are you into spirituality or are you kind of more science-led based? Like, which way do you want to go with this? Which I think is a really nice way to start, because there will be a lot of people who just don't understand spirituality and all of that journey. So the fact that you can do it from a science perspective is really interesting. And I think I went
Some
down
people need that. They
to validate.
Some people are open
Okay.
and just are ready to be like, right, whatever, throw it at me. And some people need that kind of like science-based.
I think with that, the thing is that almost everything is this, it's mirrored. So in spirituality, people might talk about, my chakras, or I've got an issue with my sacral chakra. Maybe in child psychology or developmental psychology, we might call it your receiving template. And the block in your receiving template is the block in your sacral chakra. But if you're going to start using Reiki to try and get rid of it, fine. But it's kind of, if somebody is really open spiritually or energetically, it doesn't have to be spiritual at all, but they kind of like, just get rid of it. They still need to understand what it was and let it go most of the time. And if somebody's more into psychology, you need to understand. So either way, you still need to do pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But depending on where you are in your belief system, depends on what you're going to do well with, if that makes sense.
I suppose it's a language, isn't it? You kind of choose
Yeah.
which language you're going to use for which kind of person you're dealing with, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And do you just feel the sort of vibe of the person that you're, how do you kind of get into their energy? Do you know what I mean?
I stare.
No, but that's what, because I was like, because our session was over the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is he?
Yeah, I
like,
thought the same.
Because when we first sort of were chatting, I was like, oh, of course, like we'll be together and like eye contact and he'll, but it was over the phone. I'm like, how does he get in there?
So I tend to
Get in
use
It's the X-rated version. Don't answer that one.
very subtle blend of psychology and extreme genius. I think that's that's where I go with that one. But no, so that is an interesting one, because people do argue with me about that. They want to see me face to face, or they want to see me, and they're like, no, you don't understand. I need to see you. And I'm like, well, actually, we're going to be going into some places which you might not have been to. You might not even know they're there. And if you can see me, you're going to be more worried about how you look if you're about to cry or if something's about to happen. You're going to focus more on me and what I'm saying, like we are now.
Yeah.
And if you can't see me and I can't see you, then psychologically you're going to feel very safe.
Yeah, it was
You're
quite nice actually,
absolutely-
because with
yeah.
my session, like it all felt quite internal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like it didn't feel like I was, worried about how
Yeah.
how
And
I was coming
you
across,
go a
or
lot
if you.
deeper into yourself when you don't have to worry about how you look.
Have you ever been faced with something or somebody that is very, it gives you a bit of a brick wall, sort of not
absolutely.
understanding it, and you have to really sort of plow through this?
Yeah, yes, I
Because it
have.
is- it's-
And to be fair, when you get someone like that, the session usually takes around 2 hours,
Yeah.
and you still have to be loving.
There was a bit of that. I'm gonna, yeah.
lovingly
I'm not
strangle
normally
you.
like that. It's really strange as well. It
Yeah.
was such a weird experience for me. But I mean, for somebody who doesn't sort of understand the lingo and things like that, who would say, "Oh, for me, this is a little bit wishy-washy," you know. But for
Well,
you
yeah,
to
so I
get-
tend not to work with people like that
Yeah,
because there's no point. Like if someone comes to me, so I don't work with everybody, but if someone comes to me and says I want to do a session, then maybe I'll work with them and maybe I don't. I'm at that level now. I don't work with everybody that comes,
Yeah.
and it's not a bad thing. But if I speak to somebody and they don't need to work with me, then
Yeah.
I'll just say, okay, well, here's my number. WhatsApp me. This book will give you the answer that you
Yeah.
want, or you need a psychotherapist. If you want to just sit there and talk about your problems all day, then beautiful. But I'm not your person. I will get rid of your problems. And if you want to sit there and whinge about somebody else, then okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. And after that, we now need to work out why the hell you're still in this situation and you're not taking ownership of things. So sometimes people work with me and they never work with me again because they don't like the fact that I'm trying to make them own something that they're trying to pin on someone else.
Yeah.
And that's completely fine and they're not ready for it. And it doesn't, I
They are
have
a
no...
narcissist.
No issues, or they might just be very, very wounded. They might be a victim. I've got some of the nicest clients I got are narcissists,
Really?
and I'll say, okay, right, they got this relationship issue, and they're sitting there and go, right, okay, but we do know you're a narcissist. Let's have a look at that, and they're like, okay, cool.
What would you say a narcissist is?
So narcissists,
Yes.
actually, and going back a step further, I was really interested in this one recently because I'm doing a lot of work on love and relationships and interpersonal stuff, and I decided to actually psychologically model narcissism, and then
What does
model.
that mean?
So psychologically model is to look at the mental structure that it takes
To be a narcissist.
for anything,
Okay.
Right.
So modeling, something called NLP was invented a while ago.
Neuro-linguistic
Programming.
There you go.
No, we're not. Who named this podcast?
Fantastic. So I trained years ago in NLP, became a NLP master to get a friend of mine off heroin, actually.
Wow.
But what you do with that is you look at the structure of the thought process of anything. So if you see somebody who's a good salesperson,
Yeah.
and then you see somebody who's a rubbish salesperson, and you can model the mental structure of how they think, once you've done that, you can teach that to the other person to be just the same as them. That's
Okay.
the idea,
Right, okay.
basically. And so I studied that for a long time, and so I still do modelling. But now I do, not obviously modelling, I mean, just saying.
Hey.
But no, so, but now because I do the spiritual psychology and I look at the energetic work, I now take that a little bit further and I look at the energetics, the soul contracts and the incarnational process. So I take the modelling a little bit further. So I thought with narcissism, let's actually have a deep dive, have a
Yeah.
look at that. And it was quite interesting because what I found was that we're all pack animals, and a lot of the things that kind of shape us as kids is we talk about the trauma as a child or childhood trauma and all this kind of stuff. But essentially, if you think of a troop of chimpanzees going through the jungle, either a predator is going to cause a problem, in which case mum and dad are going to protect you and the troop are going to protect you, or if you put if you're a chimpanzee and you put your baby down and you don't pick it back up again before you move on, then it's going to die because it's kicked out of the pack. As children and as humans, we have an inbuilt need to belong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so two things will create a phobia. Number one is fear of death. Number two is fear of exclusion or social embarrassment. So, so this is where we get actors from. Right? The ability to limit yourself and be whatever, create a character, and there we go. So this is actually one that comes into acting.
And is that sorry to interrupt, is that
Yeah.
the people pleaser thing?
Yeah,
Like,
that comes into that.
fear
Yeah.
of...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we look at something called a Yudin moment, it's a shock. It's unexpected, no strategy to deal with it, unexpected, dramatic, isolating, we feel very alone, and no strategy, emotional strategy to cope with. So if you're a child, and maybe you're 6 or 7, and something happens that's massively embarrassing, maybe you're on stage, and suddenly you're not very well and you vomit everywhere, you have explosive diarrhea.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we were a kid, these terrible
had
things
that?
happen
Explosive diarrhea on
Yeah.
stage.
on the
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah, and a
Are you
yellow.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's
Anyway,
horrendous. Sorry,
it's
we
another story.
digress.
I think we should talk about this.
Let's get rid of my
Okay,
trauma.
so let's just. So how did that make you feel
that's
deep down?
why
Okay,
it
right. So what happens is we have this a massive social shock, and we have this fear of being excluded. So if that fear is strong enough to get coded into your fight or flight reflex,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so if you now look at this person, this child, and they've had this massive social embarrassment, whatever that might be,
Shitting themselves on stage.
and it gets coded on their fight or flight mechanism, they have a fear, an actual phobia of rejection.
Yeah.
So now they have to spend the rest of their life being perfect. But your phobia, and this is coded into your egoic structure, not ego as in arrogance, but just your external focus. So what they'll do is they look at society and the world that they're in, they'll look at what everybody's goals are, and then they try and be perfect. And anything that is out of their mental image, so imagine you have a postcard of what perfection is. So now I'm in a relationship, and you're going to have kids, and you're going to do this, and this is perfect, and that's going to make me look good. Anytime you don't do what that person's saying, it will now trigger their phobic mechanism, and on one level it's like you're trying to kill them, you're their enemy. So that's where they need to control you, they need to get in control, and anytime you disagree with them, it's a huge reaction because they're trying to disempower you because now they feel terrified.
Does it have to come from a trauma? I mean, so would you say that the majority of narcissists, or actually the majority of people, do have childhood phobias or something that they're hanging on to? Because most therapy, you do delve into childhood all the time.
Yeah, most narcissists don't do therapy.
No, exactly.
Because to do therapy means there has to be something wrong with me, and that's the very thing I have a phobia of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But would
can
be
you
triggered.
cure narcissism? Actually, yeah, you can. You can really turn it down. Psychology and the kind of processes like that are a lot harder because they're actually going to deal with it within the egoic structure.
Right.
So then looking at something like energetic psychology, where you can go into the karmic side of things, you can then do healing on the parasympathetic nervous system, the amygdala, the sympathetic nervous system, the cellular consciousness. You can do a lot more, but you won't get them as a client.
Okay.
You will have one session with them usually. So the clients I have that are narcissistic, we will say, okay, that's it. But they'll only tend to work on quite a surface level. Therapy, and particularly kind of this more spiritual side of things, is quite trendy now. So it's kind of cool to be able to go, oh yeah, I've got my guru, my guy, my whatever. So I have more of them now,
Then you
but
do.
at the same time, it's more so they can be like cool,
Yeah.
talk to their partner about their spiritual journey, and let's go. And you get spiritual narcissism, which is
wow.
a massive one.
Oh
Whoa.
my god.
That kind of stuff. And that's what you get.
Spiritual
Well, you get you get a lot of very, very, very hyper spiritual people that
Like naturally spiritual, do you mean?
No,
No, okay.
no, unnaturally spiritual.
So
And it's kind of like,
it's-
I changed my name to Aurora, spiritual star child, and I do ayahuasca for everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's unnatural.
I saw angel
spiritual.
numbers because I'm gifted.
Yeah.
I'm an indigo.
Those.
It's my job. I didn't incarnate for me. I incarnated for you. Because
Right,
I need to
okay.
save the world. So with spirituality, it's an interesting one, and that was possibly a little bit harsh. But you get real stereotypes, and obviously I look like a stereotype myself. So we're talking. I'm trying to go Viking, not
Yeah.
not yoga.
Jesus.
Nothing wrong with
Jesus.
yoga, but no. So when you've got spirituality, essentially is we talk about ego, right? So our ego is based on separation, and so the more wounded we are, the more separation we have.
From
That's it. From ourselves, from
From
love,
ourselves.
from anything. So the bigger our egoic consciousness, if you imagine you've got your heart and then you've got your mind. Your heart and your mind. And if you can bring them together, then you live a life of passion and freedom and love and everything's beautiful. And the further apart they are, the more pain you're in. And the thing that brings them far apart is all these things that we pick up and we learn and we get told, don't jump on the sofa and stop biting the dog.
Yeah.
Why?
Stop doing
Right?
that.
But we also, if you have a belief around incarnation, we pick this up over thousands of years. So
yeah, past life stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with the idea of incarnation, people forget. Everyone thinks about this incarnational journey. You start here and you're going up and up and up. But actually, the first time a soul would incarnate, it would have no issues, no karma. Almost. So it actually is like a feather landing on a pond. The soul incarnates with very little and it has to descend first. So it has these thousands of lifetimes where it picks up bad things. It's heavier and heavier and heavier until it kind of sinks down into the mud.
Does this happen to everybody? Are you saying?
Yes.
This.
Every
That's
soul.
where my brain goes. Where
I know.
Where does soul? Where
are they?
are the souls
How
coming
does this
from, and
happen?
how many? You know, I'm like, my brain goes a bit.
I know.
If you want to do a side podcast,
Yeah.
I would explain how a soul is created.
Oh
That
my
is-
god! Yes.
That's a little bit deeper, or maybe we'll meet up and
Yeah.
take chocolates or something like that.
I want to know.
And we
Yeah.
can chocolates around the
Can you-
campfire on
are
a
you-
boat.
Can you be
Let's
like?
drink
Do you
whiskey.
see a person and do you go, oh, they're on their first soul? They've had
You
many.
wouldn't see someone on that. I wouldn't see someone on their first lifetime, but I do see people, and you go, "Oh, great!" And then you look at them, and then you work with them, and then you go, "No." Because when you're on your way down, there's issues that you're not meant to get over, and somebody is so fixated on something, you're like, "Yeah, no, we're just gonna." Otherwise,
What? Oh, so
leave
like
that to it.
in this lifetime, they're not going to be
Yeah,
able
so
to deal with that.
if you had an issue, say you're on your way down.
On
and
your way down.
So you've incarnated
Who's
at the
on
top,
their
and
way down?
you have to learn. So, for instance, there's a beautiful story called Little Soul in the Sun. Neil Donaldson Walsh. Just imagine, for instance, that you're sitting there and you're in heaven and you're bored as fuck. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Edit it, right?
don't,
Okay.
absolutely not.
You're sitting there like,
about
there's
vagina
light,
steam,
there's
for
light,
goodness
there's light. Everything around you is light. It's been light for billions of years. You float up to the great I am of all things, and you've had a thought. It's the first one that's ever happened, and you think to the great I am, and you say, I think I know what I am. And the great I am goes, thank for that. If you try and stop your child from going through trauma,
That's going to be the trauma.
you will
as well.
traumatise them.
Oh,
They'll be sitting
no.
on the couch going, I had the most controlling mother.
Oh,
I didn't feel
God.
free. What you can do, and it sounds, but what you do is you don't stop someone going through something, you help them go through it.
Yeah.
So you can sit there and they're going to do their stuff and they're going to have their problems, they're going to get bullied, bad things are going to happen. And you can't stop that. But what you can do is when it happens, you can go like, right, okay, so how do we deal with this?
Yeah.
What do we do with this? How do we unpack this? And you've got to be careful doing that. My mum was training in psychoanalytical counselling when I was 4. So it's young, basically. She was training to be a counsellor, and so she'd practice on me quite a bit. And so when I remember
Hence,
coming home
who you
and I got bullied at school, and I was a bit Forrest Gump, so I was born with a hole in my heart, my feet were on sideways, so I had like little special shoes, and I had glasses, big NHS ones, and I had hay fever, asthma, dyslexia, which we didn't know about at the time, so they thought I was mentally handicapped and all this and stuff. And a kid at school punched me. I was about 7 and broke my glasses, and I came home and I had this black eye and I was really upset, and my mum just turned around and went, and why do you think that he did that? I mean, if you put yourself in his shoes,
Okay.
I mean, he obviously isn't very happy, is he? And I'm like, I want a cuddle.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's true.
But at
it
the
is
same
true.
time, she did teach me to go into third person perspective and actually look what's the
And
bigger
that's
picture
then,
going on.
yeah.
Which
Wow.
shapes who you are, doesn't it, completely? Because
And that's the other side of it with a narcissist. That anytime someone's got an egoic attachment, you can't go and think about the other person's thing. You have to do it from yours because you're attached to your version of what's going on.
Because I heard somebody say the other day about narcissism. It's like a narcissist can't determine sort of feelings, which we know, but they look at you as an object. So rather than a person, they look at you with a person with feelings. They look at you like you would look at a sofa, that they just cannot physically understand that that person would have, they can't comprehend that there's feelings attached to a person,
I think they can,
but they just can't
but they
connect to it.
don't necessarily care.
Yeah.
Because
that
it's
makes
like
sense.
when you're angry and you're in the middle of a raging argument, I'm sure neither of you have ever done that.
Never.
I mean, you might know that your partner has a really bloody valid point, but you do not give a crap. Because right now you're in the middle of your rage. It's not until you calm down and then you look at them and go, no, yeah, okay, I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And that's when you can kind of step out of your stuff and look at it from their point of view.
Yeah.
Now, if a narcissist has got this fear of I will die if you don't do what you're meant to do,
Yeah.
then I can't step out of my version of things and look at it from your point of view because your point of view doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you need to validate this, the dream. You need to be part of this. This is what you need to do. And if you're not doing that, then you're against me.
So it's like if you don't serve me, basically.
Yeah, but they're not looking like, there's this whole thing that, narcissists look for empaths and narcissists are looking for victims. No, they're not.
No.
They're just sitting there trying to be perfect, thinking that they're perfect, finding people that they like. And then when they find someone they like, they can be a bit controlling, they can be quite love-bomby. But then actually, people who aren't narcissists can be incredibly love-bomby. I'm very love-bomby if I get the chance. If I really like someone, I'm like, right, how brilliant can this be? So they don't specifically look for people that they can control, but the only people that stay with them are the people that they control. Everyone else would just tell them to bugger off. So they're just living their life normally, and then we go, everyone's a narcissist. But then if you look at it from another point of view, if we then go into the spiritual side of things, we've got the empath.
Yeah.
Narcissists love empaths, empaths love narcissists, the people pleasers. Now, a people pleaser is somebody who has a lot of trauma. A narcissist is somebody who has we all have a lot of trauma. But the people pleaser has learned that they're not good enough as they are and they need to become what you want. So, you have this situation. I was quite a people pleaser. I felt pretty worthless, so I would find, what does mum want, what does dad want, and what can I do to be that so that I know that I get loved. Okay, so to do that, the more that I do that, the more I separate from myself, and so I'm creating a character that can be loved. Now we all do that. The people pleaser just does it more, but also for somebody who has a lot of people pleasing or more people, they have very little respect for my emotional boundaries or my personal boundaries.
What? Sorry, the person. The
So
empath has
if you were a child, the empath had parents.
Yeah.
And those parents didn't necessarily respect the empath's boundaries.
Right, I see. Okay.
So the empath is not the people pleaser.
The empath is the
Is
people
the-
pleaser.
is the-
but that-
So let's say,
Okay.
so the people pleaser, so spirituality, empath, psychology, people pleaser.
Okay.
Right?
And
And
we're
so
talking-
literally just like, it's your bedroom, I'm just going to come in whenever I want.
Okay.
And emotionally speaking, I'm going to read your diary, and emotionally speaking, you don't want this, but I'm your mum, so you are. Don't care. Right? They don't necessarily care what you want. And so what we learn is that the people that love us don't care what we want.
Right.
What we have to do to make them happy is we have to do what they want. So if you imagine like two movies, you live in your movie, I live in my movie, and what I learn is my movie means bugger all. I have to live in your movie and do what you want, and now I'm a people pleaser.
Right.
And so the narcissist, they live in their movie and they won't go into anybody else's movie, so they're like, you either come into my movie or you
Or
are not in my life.
Yeah.
The empath, the people pleaser, they live in everybody else's movie. So when they find someone that's not coming into their movie, they're used to that. So they would live in the other person's movie. Now, this is the interesting thing. The empath doesn't think that they deserve love as they are. So they will find someone that will take from them. And they will give, and they will give, and they will give, and they will give, and they will keep giving until they get sick of it. And the empath will keep giving. And eventually, the empath turns around and does everything they possibly can to show love. So what they're doing is they're learning what it feels like to express love. And because this person's taking from them, they actually feel quite validated. It's kind of a weird toxic validation, but they start expressing themselves and they learn to express love. And then they start saying to themselves, eventually, I deserve this because this person I'm with hasn't done anything to deserve it. If they haven't done anything to deserve it and they're getting all of this, I don't need to do anything to deserve it either. And then eventually they leave the narcissist. They say, oh, it was horrible, and it obviously was, and there was a lot of codependency, so there's a lot of pain. But in that moment, when they say, I deserve better, for the first time in their life, they just learned self-love.
And is that when an empath, that's what I'm saying, sort of finds their starring role in their own movie, really?
Yeah.
Well, a sort of, you can be...
Yeah, so somebody who is an empath, when we talk about empath, we're talking about the spiritual side of things, so we're talking about somebody who takes on other people's emotions. So usually it comes from traumatic childhood where they had to be hypersensitive of the emotions. So they might have had an alcoholic parent, or they might have had a parent with borderline personality, or something along those lines where they need to know instantly what's going on here, read the room, am I walking on eggshells, is dad angry, is mum in a mood, I need to check the look. And so they learn to sense everything around them from a traumatic point of view, so they're not very grounded in their body.
Could it go
Yeah.
the other way? Could people be so aware of, oh, am I treading on eggshells, is mum this and this, and so they sort of cut off from any emotion?
You tend not to, because safety. So again, if we go back to the chimpanzees, if you've got a baby chimpanzee that's meant to tread on eggshells, if you've ever seen a male kick off, that baby will be dead. And so we're sitting there, if you're like 5 years old, if your mum goes into a rage, you're like, you can't survive that. So just from a survival point
Okay.
of view, you're more likely to kind of sense. But so the point with the empath is, so the empath is going through a certain amount of trauma, but they will find a narcissist. But in many ways, the narcissistic relationship, even though it's terrible and it can traumatize them, but relationships bring up our trauma. We've all got trauma. Everybody has trauma. Everybody has. In Esther Perel, my favourite relationship psychologist, she's absolutely amazing.
Esther Perel, I love her so
Esther
much.
Perel.
So good.
Yeah.
She's just
She said, I think
amazing.
she should be the Dalai Lama. I think they should just put some robes on her heart like Esther.
Oh, she's amazing, isn't she? She's
Love Esther Perel.
incredible,
And the
yeah.
accent, just
Yeah.
listen to her all day
She's
long. So
amazing.
she was always saying that in every relationship, one person is scared of losing the other and one person is scared of losing themselves. And
Yeah.
essentially that's it. We all have that.
So it's from what Lou, sorry to interrupt, from what Lou
No,
was
no.
saying, there are actually two. So that we've got a narcissist and an empath, and actually people just have traits of each other rather
Yeah.
than
No.
rather than it being a middle ground. It's just that you maybe don't have so much. Not a serious, empath or a serious narcissist. You've just got traits.
Yeah, it's just a scale.
It's just
Yeah.
a scale.
My
50
thing
Shades
is
of
like, where's
Green.
the
Yeah.
where do we
is-
want to be?
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Where do
actually.
we want to be as a human?
Yeah.
Is my just I guess wherever you're happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
If
happy.
you're
So
a happy narcissist.
If you're happy
could-
being your narcissist,
do you know,
you
yeah,
carry
but the
on.
thing, you
Crack
can
on.
get a happy narcissist and a happy people pleaser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
yeah,
can be
it's nice.
together, and as long as their vision is aligned, then the people pleaser, if she has an aligned or he has an aligned vision with the narcissist, they can be quite open about it. So it's really just finding somebody that has the right kind of crap for you.
Yeah.
And this obviously does happen a lot because everyone wants to know who's right and who's wrong. There's a whole thing at the moment about the blue pill, red pill society. So you've got, in order to be, so a woman has to be in her feminine to find a man because opposites attract.
This is what I was saying. This male and feminine energy.
Energy.
Yeah.
I mean, what on earth does it all mean? Dumb it down here because
Okay.
It's a big topic,
Right.
it's
isn't
a
it?
big
But
topic, and I absolutely don't understand it at all.
There is a concept,
Yeah.
right? We get things called spiritual laws. Okay, and these are the laws of creation, law of gravity, the law
of attraction.
the law of attraction. So the law of attraction and manifesting. Okay,
Yeah.
now somebody called Jung, a long time ago,
Are they all
came up with no, it was the original Jung,
Yeah.
but then I think Esther Perel mentions it a little bit, and it kind of then became a thing. The law of polarity, opposites attract.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I am just going to say this: I don't believe in the law of polarity.
really,
opposites.
Polarity exists,
Yeah.
but the law of polarity is that opposites attract. The law of manifesting, so these I have, is that we need to have something in us to attract it. Okay, so poverty does not attract money.
no.
Simple as that. Day does not attract nighttime, but magnets attract each other. Well, the law of polarity. But so the idea of the law of polarity is that a hyper masculine man, your 6 foot trust fund, blue eyes, what's the song?
Yeah.
6 foot trust fund. He's going to want a hyper feminine woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's so if you want to attract a hyper masculine man, you need to be in your feminine, because feminine and masculine, and then they come together, and this is the concept of the law of polarity. And so a lot of really big Instagram influencers are now talking about it. A guy called Danny Morell, he's got the Awaken Weekends, and he talks about it a lot. And we've got all this stuff, and it's really kind of taken on board. And now that kind of then goes into gender roles.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're now going to be a hyper feminine woman, but if you go into this, you're like, well, I want a man to look after and protect me, not because I want him to buy me handbags and take me to Dubai, but because I'm feminine and I want a masculine man. So I have to be in my feminine, which means I'm a princess. And so it actually egoically is giving a lot of women a way of justifying a certain stereotype. And it's also giving a lot of men a way of justifying a certain stereotype, of going a little bit more into being a little bit more controlling and a little bit more about the money and just being a little bit more kind of, it starts, if you take those stereotypes, just the stereotypes, it goes a little bit more into the kind of egoic version.
Yeah.
Now, the reality, as I see it, and obviously I'm not right about absolutely everything, but I am definitely right about this.
Quote me on this one.
Is the law of manifesting means to have something, we need to have it inside us as well. So if you think about the idea of
So if I want to be a millionaire,
yes,
I need to have £1 million just sitting in here somewhere.
and none shall buy on none shall buy. Yeah. So if you want to be a millionaire,
Yeah.
you really need to connect with money. So money has to become unimportant to you. It has to become a desire, not an importance.
That's where I struggle, because it's like to manifest, it's like let it go,
Yeah.
but also focus on it.
How do you
I
let
find
something
that
go without making it
Yeah.
unimportant? Ram Dass.
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's like focus on it, but also
Don't
don't
be attached to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't be attached. It's like that attachment and non-attachment. I
Beautiful
find it
quote
really confusing.
From Ram Dass: "Hold tightly, let go lightly."
How do you do
Hold
that?
tightly, let go lightly.
I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like a contradiction to me.
It does.
Tell us, Rue, how do
So
we
how
hold
do you
tightly?
do that?
Go back to the masculine feminine thing. If you think about a guy on a poster and he's beautiful, maybe he's Channing Tatum, something like that, and he's sitting there with a shirt and he looks great and he looks all masculine. If he's coming out of a burning building, he's a fireman and everything, yeah, great, it's all masculine. But if he's holding a baby as he's running out, he's now got this soft feminine edge. And now, from a female point of view, it's sexier than the guy that's just sitting there with a big machine gun or something like that. Whereas the guy is, men will look at, Conan the Barbarian, and oh, it's all masculine. Whereas when you see the bit of feminine in him, you're like, that's a little bit more cool now. And then from the male point of view, again,
Lara Croft.
a girl, Lara Croft,
Lara Croft.
in leathers on a motorbike. So you've now got that masculine type thing, and now the guy's like, whereas if you think a hyper feminine woman sitting with lavender in a lavender thing, wearing something flowery, we're not finding that sexy. So there's a difference. So it's the feminine held by the masculine that you guys will like. And for a guy, it's the masculine held by the feminine that we will like. So in a relationship, the part of you that's a little bit tomboyish, the part of you that kind of sit and watch football and everything, the guy is sitting there going, I'm not a football fan, but the guy is sitting there going like, she's so fucking cool. She's like my best mate, and we get to, and
Yeah.
vice versa. You don't want a guy to be particularly feminine,
Maybe that's where I went wrong. Sorry.
but at the same time, if he's only masculine and doesn't have that quality, it's like you want a bear that you can cuddle. You want him to be soft with you, and
With it, yeah.
it's the Viking, but when he's with you, he's all kind of like tender, and so it's the feminine. So the other side of it, if we look at it from a psychological point of view, is you could have, on a scale of 1 to 10, you could have a 10 feminine template. Your feminine is healed, your feminine is beautiful, you're massively in your feminine. But if your masculine template is a 2, loads of toxicity on it, then every time you see a guy, your template to evaluate the guy is fucked. It's a 2. So you need to heal your masculine, and the more healed your masculine is, the better the guy. You also don't want to be a man. You want to be a woman. So when you're trying to manifest the relationship, perfect. Actually, there we go. When you're manifesting a relationship, you're trying to find someone to date, you have to have a healed masculine template to bring in somebody that's a good
Healed, so like a
just refine. So any trauma you've got, any relationships with your dad, or relationships with ex-boyfriends, or crap, or stereotypes you're holding around men only want sex, anything you picked up from your mum around men are just want one, all that kind of stuff. So we heal all of that crap, so that you have a really high vibrational, really healed version of a man. And that way you can look at a man and instantly see, is he decent? Is he insecure? Is he what? Is it because you're not holding any toxicity on your template? So your frame of reference is a great frame of reference. Once you find a good guy, then you get the feminine comes in once you've started the relationship.
If you find like your average person, like on the street, who doesn't listen to podcasts, who hasn't read all these books, and and they want to find sort of a perfect relationship, and they've got no idea about this, or just wouldn't even entertain them, and they find a perfect relationship. I mean, is there anything to say that actually it just works, and masculine, feminine energy isn't perhaps anything to do with it? And you know what I mean? Someone who's just totally uneducated in this,
Absolutely.
and it actually just
is a
can
natural
just
is a
come
natural
together.
thing.
It's been working that way for millions of years.
Yeah.
However, when they do, generally, so the values have changed recently. So our parents, they got together without thinking that divorce was a thing, and our grandparents got together with there is no such thing as divorce. So our grandparents wouldn't be sitting there going, well, they're quite fit and they make my stomach churn. They sit there and go, is this person reliable, dependable, fun? And that's where, you know, some lady, she married the butcher because that way she knew she'd get good meat and everything. Whereas now you're like, does he have a Bugatti? Do I go to Dubai? What do I get from this kind of thing? Whereas they used to get married based on stability. And in 60 years' time, will I still be finding this person funny? And so we used to look at somebody's values and then connect on values. And now we look at somebody's, we don't look at their values, put it that way.
That's so
We look at their
sad.
physicality.
That's
We
so
look
sad.
at the money they've got, the,
I don't like
the
that
stuff
at all.
that they can do. We look at the way that they validate. And
Yeah.
we look at how they validate themselves and does that look fun to us rather than the values behind that.
That's such a shame, isn't it, actually?
So yeah, so the average person on the street that doesn't listen to podcasts, if they find somebody whose values they like, brilliant,
just
go
a
for it.
simple
But also, I always say go for it
Yeah.
because every relationship you get into teaches you something.
Yeah.
You know, so if you get into a relationship and it's toxic and it's horrible, if you are that empath and you're like, oh, but are they a narcissist? You've got to ask yourself, do you have any trauma you need to heal? Because if you're not going to go and do the healing on it, then you're going to have to date someone like that to bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just go and be celibate. But if you find somebody who's going to treat you nicely and you've got all that trauma, you're going to break up with them. So one of the biggest things that I get in terms of relationships when I'm working with married couples quite often is where, well, it's not one of the biggest things I get, but quite a common one is where you've got a couple, they've got together and everything was amazing, and then the woman's telling me, I love him, I just don't fancy him. I just don't have that fire and blah, blah, blah. And what's happened is the guy's just too nice. And she's sitting there wanting somebody who's a little bit more like a wolf and he's a little bit more like a puppy. And so it triggers her maternal instinct.
Yeah.
Now, what does she do? Does she have an affair? Does she leave him? Bearing in mind, this might be the nicest man that she's ever been
Yeah.
with. Is it his fault? Does he need to actually stop putting her on a pedestal and bring her up a little bit more?
Yeah.
So what do you do? Do you work with them both in that situation? And
Voodoo, I just do voodoo.
Yeah.
No.
The thing is, I don't think I put it past you, actually.
There is a story about that actually. So what I do in that situation usually, sometimes it means they have to split up. The first thing I need to do is explain to the woman that it's not her fault. The guilt. What often happens is people won't work on it. They won't see a therapist or anything like that, and the woman will end up having an affair. Then she'll leave her husband, and then she'll just think he was the nicest person. That I'm just a terrible human being. Because I'm a terrible human being, I now don't deserve happiness. And then she'll spend a couple of years off with people treating her like complete crap because she doesn't think she deserves any better. And it's like, dude, actually, it was his fault. Sorry, mate, I don't really attribute fault to anything, but he needed to just man up a little bit. And I don't, going back to gender stereotypes, he just needed to raise his game a bit. So what I'll tend to do is, is there anything we can do with him? Usually it'll be one of the couples seeing me for therapy, not the other one. I can't turn around to him and say, oh, by the way, so your wife's thinking about having an affair or leaving you.
No,
So
God.
we're thinking you should take up MMA. What do you think? Yeah. Right? So usually you're going to have to work with her on her value system. And maybe if she really wants to work on a relationship, there's some stuff she can do to kind of let go of things. And maybe there's some stuff she can do to calm him down. Because if he's full insecure, he's got some lack or some worthlessness there. If she can focus her, find out what that worthlessness wound is, and if she can support him there and get his ego to kind of come up, then
God, it's mad, isn't it? You don't have to
Then
do this
cool.
with friendships, for goodness sake. You know what I mean? Just get on
really,
with it.
you've not told her about the session.
Oh my God. It's true.
Like-
We don't analyse these things. That's all. Do we? When you're a friend, you just say, I love you. That's it.
Yeah.
No. But also, I'm only talking from one side of it. There are millions of people out there that have a great time. I've got clients that have the most amazing marriages. I am literally I'm talking to them on the phone, and we're not talking about their marriage. We're talking about work. We're talking about this, and I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah, you've got it.
write a book.
Yeah.
I'm going to come and live with you.
Yeah.
And so but the people that come to me are the people that have problems.
we have 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. Maybe
I could go on. I could.
I know. Lost an hour.
And also, I'm like,
Thank
I want to
you.
cover this, and I want to
I
cover that, and I
know.
want to do that. But is there anything we want to?
I'd-
Is there anything we want to just talk about, and then we'll wrap up?
I would love to know, just for people listening, how a typical session for you when you meet somebody could look. I'm sure it's very, very different, but sort of what you I'm guessing, are you sort of interested in what they want to achieve from the session, and then it goes from there, or do you have sort of like a
It depends on the person and depends on the session.
yeah?
But bearing in mind, just to throw this out there, I am now, so if I'm working with a spiritual teacher, my job is to help them integrate their spiritual gifts and bring a lot of that up to the surface.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm working with somebody on their spiritual path, my job is to just have a look at, see what's going on for their soul purpose spiritually, but then look at, okay, but what about money? What about love? Because a lot of people, when they go into spirituality, they go, money doesn't matter. And a lot of people have celibacy contracts. So we have things called past life contracts. And you might have had a nun
whole
in a
other
past life. And that's
Yeah.
actually a common one. So you've got a soul that's becoming more and more spiritual. So in one lifetime, they might be a monk or a nun. They've got no money, no sex. And so in this lifetime, they're like, no, I'm spiritual, it doesn't matter. And you look, their relationships are screwed and they've got no cash. So it's like, okay, well, we can do this, but what's it going to take to make you happy? I did have somebody the other day who messaged me on Facebook and they started asking me all this stuff and it turned out to be a scam. So I did a spiritual reading and told him about his mum.
Oh my god!
That's how you deal with that.
I'm going to do this whole thing
Yes.
for you. I'm going to give you a tarot card reading. I can see
Oh,
your spirit guides have
oh
told
my
me I need
God.
to catch you. And I was like very, very polite to them. I was like, my spirit guides trust me. I speak to them on a day by day basis. I just got off
Amazing.
I just come off a 7-day retreat. Literally, it was the next day, and everybody goes, "No, you don't understand." And I just messaged him back, "You're in Nigeria, aren't you? It's nothing wrong." I work with, like, I thought he was Ghanaian, and then I could see when I connected into his system that actually his dad had walked out of him when they were quite young. He had a bit of an interesting
Imagine
relationship
getting
with his
that
mum.
my gosh,
He
you'd
was
be like,
single,
just
blah
wanted
blah
to
blah. So I literally
scam you.
I just said, by the way, so your soul guides want me to say this, and I just this whole thing. So a
bet.
normal session.
What a gift.
Somebody's doing something. If somebody wants to come to me for spirituality and coaching, so I'm not a coach to start off with. That's very important. Coaching, a whole different skill, whole different licensing. I'm a therapist.
Yeah.
But so what would happen is first thing I'm going to do is just find out if you've got something you want to work on already, or you might just be coming for the experience. Okay. So if you're just coming for the experience,
Which is what we did actually.
Yeah.
Without any
Yeah, yeah.
expectation, just
yeah,
for experience.
just coming for the experience, and you want to just upscale, but you're not quite sure how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, we have a look at what are you really into in life? Where are your passions? Is it work? Is it career? Is it love? Is it your spiritual path? Do you want to become psychic and open your third eye, or do you want to just be really, really happy and have a great time and take your kids to Dubai? So we've got to work out, where is joy? What direction are you going in? I know where you're going. I can look at your belief systems. Then I'm gonna work out your level of spirituality, because if you're just coming for the experience, do you want the really spiritual experience? Do you not give a crap? You just want to get as far as you can in a session, or do you want to talk it through and have that mental, emotional situation?
Yeah.
A little bit like counselling. And if you do want to talk it through, then at the same time, I'm going to look at your past lives, the karma, the soul contracts, the relationships you've got with your mum, with your dad. And I'm just going to start unhooking them while you're telling me all your problems, or you're telling me you don't have any problems. It's taking 2 hours, we're an hour in, right. So
We'll talk about trauma. There was no trauma, Roo. Just let me just.
right. I've never been traumatized.
Trying to get me to say something that I'm not going to say.
But then that's also it. A lot of people, we then have things like, I don't want to say anything bad about my parents. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love my mum and dad. I absolutely love my mum and dad. I don't want to say bad stuff about my parents. But if I forget about my parents, there was times when I was a child and I was upset with them, and they might have been completely right about the whole thing. I can't eat ice cream for breakfast when I'm 6 years old, and I don't go to bed whenever I want. I do need to go to bed on time because I'm not very well, and they do need to tell me what to do. But as a child, I pick up this idea that I'm not loved. I have to do this. So it's nothing to do with, we're not dishonouring someone by saying, yeah, I was upset and I felt whatever. But anyway, so from the spiritual point of view, I'll then usually work on 3 different levels at the same time. So we'll talk psychologically, and then I'm looking at your success template, your belief systems, and we're going to go and undo your belief systems. But as we're undoing your belief systems, we've got the other layer of the karmic and the soul, the reason that you incarnated in this lifetime and why you incarnated with that stuff. And so I just need to start undoing and just resolving all of that kind of stuff. So for instance, your belief system might be, you might have a thing around, in this lifetime, your soul incarnated to learn pride. Okay. But as a child, and to be proud of yourself, we talk about pride, then we talk about arrogance. But if you did something really good, amazing play, you did a Shakespeare sonnet and people were crying their eyes out, you'd be proud. And is that arrogant?
Oh.
No, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. But we have this idea that to be proud of ourselves, I don't want to be arrogant.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
arrogance-
definitely drummed into us a lot, isn't it? Like, don't get too
Exactly.
big, you know.
Don't get too big for your boots.
Yeah.
Arrogance is where we look down on other people. Pride is where we value what we're doing, and if we go, oh my God, it took me ages. No, you could do it too. You just need to work hard, and you lift everyone up. But so now, if you want to learn pride, you need to learn shame. So as a child, you'll get something will happen. You get it drummed into you. Maybe I'm from a poor working class background on one side of it, and then we had rich family members on the other side of it. So I had this whole money divide contrast thing going on. So your soul contract may be to have this poverty and to work your way out of it, but your therapy session may be on, I don't want to let my parents down, and I don't want to be arrogant, and I don't want to look like an idiot. So as we're undoing the belief system using psychology and NLP and all that kind of thing for the arrogance side of thing, when did you learn that? I'll work underneath that on the karmic lesson is this karmic lesson for worthlessness might be 4 or 5 lifetimes back.
It's mad because you like all of this stuff that you have done and all the, credits and all of the things that you have. I mean, there mustn't be anyone else like you, really, because I mean that. I just because you've got such an extensive list of experience. I mean, you can't put all of those things into
there are a
one
lot of
thing.
people out there that worked it out quicker than me, basically.
But it's like there's so many layers to it.
There are a lot of layers to it, but at the end of the day, there are people out there. So there are people I work with, and I have teachers, and I have people that I work with, and I have peers, and I have mentors and stuff like that. And some of them don't have the level of different things that I trained in, but they didn't need to. They got there in a different way. So I do think, I love the compliment.
Well, it's just very
Everyone's
interesting because I just don't know how, like a therapist couldn't then sort of unlock your inner child through your past lives of, you know what I mean? It's a very interesting way.
I just wanted to pick up on something as we're sort of wrapping up, but when you said you sort of said we're here, we're incarnated and we learn this lesson. Do you believe that we are here to learn a lesson and then we move on?
Every lifetime we have roughly 3 big life lessons, thousands of little ones. So it's like every lifetime there's a load of crossword puzzles. And if you don't complete a crossword puzzle in the next lifetime, you have the remainder of that crossword puzzle. So we have thousands of little lessons, but we have 3 incarnational soul lessons. These are the big ones. When you find that, you go, literally, that is my entire life. I've just seen it. And it's like, I actually did it. I was feeling really anxious last Friday and did a healing on myself. I've been doing this for 25 years.
Wow.
I was scream crying for about 2 hours, and that is not me. Trust me. I was like, oh! There's no one in the house, luckily, because this thing came up, and suddenly I saw everything from literally the womb all the way through and everything. But so
from this lifetime,
I was very surprised.
Is that? Do you think that was a lesson then for you? One of the.
And you were meditating.
It's taken me 25 years to find it because I work on myself 3-4 times a week. I'm good. I'm good. And I have other people working me. But so every lifetime we have 3 major gifts. That could be intelligence, tenacity, it could be curiosity, it could be creativity. We have 3 major curses. And so it's like a game of poker. We've got 3 good cards, and our job is to spend our life working on what are our major gifts and now just enhance them, work on them, jump into them. That's going to be our passion. That's going to be all the good shit. And then what are our 3 major curses? Just make peace with them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And as we make peace with them, we let them go.
Yeah.
And when we let them go, actually half the time they disappear. So the people pleaser, one of their curses may be that they just feel worthless. But one of their passions may be curiosity. So if you can be curious about the things that you enjoy, if you can imagine, you've got the idea of 1,000, you've got to walk 1,000 miles. 2 people have to walk 1,000 miles. One of them enjoys walking. One of them is trying to get to the end. Who walks further? Because the person who's trying to get to the end is just trying to get to the end point. The person who enjoys walking will get the 1,000 miles and they'll keep going.
Yeah.
So when you find the thing that you enjoy, you just keep going. And you just have this passion for it. So if you can now bring in curiosity, which is one of mine, that's why I've trained in so many different things. Maybe to get to the level I got to, I only needed to train in one of those things. And all the others don't matter. But I was so curious that I did. But now part of my life path is teaching. And because I've done so many different things, I can understand where people are in different ways. If you're a psychologist, I can work with you. Okay, right. So when spiritual people are talking about this hippie crap, it's this. And, oh, I know, I get it. Okay, right, now just try it. Oh, hang on a minute, I can energy. Oh, okay, yeah, now bring it in. So, because my soul path is teaching, I had a much wider level. But from a therapy point of view, there are other people that might have a deeper thing. Their thing is awakening.
I was going to say, we have a closing tradition on this podcast. Heard that one before?
Yep.
We don't. I'm just quoting
We
from
can
one of the
start
greats.
one. Does it
One of
have
the greats.
tequila shots?
No. When you first came into here, and the first question you asked us, I think it would be really appropriate to ask you, which was, what is your dream? So what is your dream, Rue? You put it on us, putting it back on you.
What is my dream? I don't have dreams anymore. I'm kind of in it. I'll try and be quick with this. There's your egoic path and then there's your soul path. And at some point, if you're lucky, they come together and then you're just in it. That's kind of where I am now. But I've got a couple of retreats that I'm developing. That would be amazing. Some in Mexico, some around the world. I mean, that'd be such an amazing thing just to spend my life traveling around meeting really cool, interesting people and doing spiritual retreats. And but I think my biggest dream would be to see how fun love can be. To have to have a partner that it's just kind of like go down that journey. I've done so many spiritual routes. I've got so much curiosity of how cool and how fun can life actually be. And there are certain things that you would only do with a partner that, you know, like going to the ice hotel or, you know, going to the Maldives or something. You don't really just want to do that with somebody that you've been dating for a week or two.
Yeah.
And everything. But then there's also there's an area of spirituality that specifically involves connection. So exploring that be freaking amazing.
It's an ongoing journey. Watch this space,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
The retreats, the money, and the love.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rue.
Rue,
It's
thank you
been-
so much. We could go
we
on
could,
forever and ever
we could go on
ever.
and we should do more
We should do
episodes
it.
with you. But thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you.
Lovely to see you guys too.